Okay, hey guys, it's Tyler, and it's been a while. It's been a long while, hasn't it, since we've actually taken a good look at Warframe. There's been several updates since the last time I had actually taken a look at this game, and I've started playing it a lot again recently because some of the more recent updates, namely 12 and 13, have improved it a lot. It was already a very good game in my opinion, so here we go. If you don't know, if you've never seen this before, what is Warframe? It is a third-person, very co-op based shooter thingy, and it's free to play. Basically, it's a space badass simulator, and it's very good at what it does. Now, Update 13 has added several things, and we're going to focus on a couple of the new updates on this particular video. As you can see, it's called Dark Sectors, which is, of course, very clever of DE, naming it that. Anyway, let's take a look. One of the biggest things it added, of course, is a new Warframe. This one, the Hydroid, which is a water-based, somewhat Cthulhu-looking Warframe that is kind of pirate-y, corsair-y in theme. Has water-based abilities, and I'll show you those when we get in-game. A couple of other things that have been added include this sucker right here, the Attica crossbow. There was already one crossbow, that is the Ballistica, added by Update 12, I believe, which is a secondary crossbow. Looks something like this, right here. And now, in Update 13, they have added a primary. Also, I believe a new Sentinel and a new melee weapon that is a cutlass and dagger combo. So let's take a look at some of the newest additions. One of them is a refined transmutation system. And so how transmutation works is you select 4 mods. Now this is kind of like gambling. So essentially what transmutation is you put 4 mods into these slots, pay a fairly large amount of credits, and you get a mod back. Now there are no recipes, meaning there's no guarantee that you'll get anything that you want, really. There are no, like, if you combine these 4 things, you are guaranteed to get this. There's nothing like that. There are a couple of enhanced probabilities you can game the system with, though. So if you put in 4 commons, you're more likely to get a common. Same goes for uncommons and rares. So if you put in 4 rares, you're more likely to get a rare back, but not guaranteed. Keep that in mind. And the same works for the polarities. So if I put in 4 of these V polarity slot mods, I'm more likely to get a V back. But again, it is not a guarantee. So if you really want to get a certain mod from this system, usually you're better off just farming the enemies that drop it for the mod. But if you really want to use this, look at the polarity, and it's basically just use the wiki. Look at the polarity that the mod has and its rarity, and combine 4 mods of that. So basically, let's say you wanted fast hands for some reason. You need to combine 4 mods that are common, and 4 mods that also, if you can, have that bar polarity. That way you're more likely to get a mod back that is of the common rarity, and or one that has that bar polarity. But again, this isn't a guarantee in any way. This is gambling, and it's basically a credit sink for end-game people that have a large amount of expendable credits and mods, because it is quite expensive. First of all, you put 4 mods into here, which is a good amount of mods, and secondly, the credit cost is pretty high. So 4 commons is going to cost you about 12,000 credits, 4 uncommons is going to be 24,000, and 4 rares is going to be 36,000 credits for every time you want to do this. So this is mostly an end-game thing. If you want a specific mod, you're better off just looking it up on the wiki or using the in-game codex, which I'm going to go to next, and farm the enemy that drops it. That's much more likely to get you what you want. The fusion cores have been altered a bit as well, with gold cores that give you much more like experience, basically. They're rare, of course. And really, that's about it, but there have been a ton of mods added, including things that take advantage of course, the new damage system, which I'm going to go in as well. But let's look at the codex first. So the codex is a very new addition that is essentially like an in-game wiki. It has data on all of the various things that exist in the game. The Banshee frame! Woo! Yeah. The codex basically tells you all about the various things in the game, whether it be frames, weapons, enemies, etc. But the way it works is only some of these things are added automatically. Some of them you have to buy a codex scanner for, and actually scan multiple times, and eventually through the scans it will give you the information of how much health and shield and armor they have, the type of damage types they're weak and strong to, and the kind of mods they can drop. And that's how this system works, really. It's pretty cool. As you can see here, it even will tell you the sources of these mods if you have them known. The way the scanning works is you go into the market and buy a codex scanner. I believe it's not that expensive. Let me check. Is it under here? I don't remember where it actually is, if I'm honest. Where are you, scanner? Gear? That would make sense, right? Do-do-do, hee-ya-da-da, where are you? Poop. There it is. 500. It is 500 credits, and I believe it's 25 uses. Yeah, 25 uses for 500 credits. So it's not actually that expensive. You just bring this in on a mission as gear, and you scan various objects and enemies. By the way, scanning an unaware enemy will give you more experience, and it will count towards 2 scans of that particular thing. So anyway, that's a new system that's been added for kind of completionists, and it's quite interesting. It's basically like an in-game bestiary. Another thing that's changed is the damage system. Damage 2.0 has been added into the game. How this works is there are various damage types as there were before, but now they are more important. Basically, the downfall of the original system in this game was that you wanted to just slap on as many damaging mods onto every weapon you had as you could. There was no reason not to. Just ice damage, fire damage, electricity damage, just slap as many on there as you can to get the most damage out of it possible. Now, however, that's changed. You don't really want to do that, because damage types have all of their own strengths and weaknesses versus various types of armor, and each of the 3 factions, the Grineer, Corpus, and Infested, have different types of armor that have different strengths and weaknesses to various damage types. And also, every damage type has a proc effect. So, puncture damage, for instance, can proc a bleeding effect that will do damage. It actually ignores shields as well. Damage over time. And now the elemental damage types have also changed. As you can see here, my Soma, assault rifle, minigun, destroyer of worlds weapon, has blast damage. Now, damage types actually combine in damage 2.0. So, fire damage and ice damage on the same weapon combine into blast damage, which has its own strengths and weaknesses separate from fire and ice, and also its own proc effect, which is an explosion that knocks people down and stuff like that. And this works for everything, really. All the damage types can combine. Now what this means, first of all, is a lot more variety in the enemies you face, because they can apply these damage types to you as well, and these procs will appear on the top right of your screen. And I will be getting into a game shortly to show you the new UI and things that have changed as well. And what this also means is that there are less weapons that aren't viable. Because one of the problems with the original system, as it were, was that some weapons were just flat out better than others. Like, for instance, the update that the Soma was added in, it was almost considered overpowered because it was so good. This is a nerf and a buff, basically, to everything, without being heavy-handed. I like it, because some weapons that aren't as good, or weren't as good before, now can be equipped with a certain combination of these damage types, and actually be much more useful than before. So, as you can see, I have cryo rounds and hellfire to make sure that I get this blast damage, because I find it very good, because proc chance on a weapon that fires this quickly is obviously quite high. So, combining these makes me have a lot of impact with this weapon, which otherwise doesn't, and so I can kind of cut through swathes of enemies and knock them all over, and continue just shooting the crap out of them with this weapon. And this makes it a lot more fun, in my opinion. Another example is this, the Orthos, which is a blade staff. Obviously, it's a two-headed blade staff that is really quite the thing. It's very good against Infested because it does a lot of slash damage, which is good against the softer, fleshy types of armor that Infested tend to have. And it's pretty good against Grineer as well. But it's not that great against Corpus. Now you might think that, well, that means it's not a good weapon to bring on those missions, because really it doesn't do a lot of damage to shields. Impact damage, for instance, is good against shields, and as you can see, it's quite low. Well, the Damage 2.0 system changes that. If I equip it with, say, upgrades, I don't have them on right now because I don't have any properly, but I'm getting there eventually, as I rank it up. If I equip it with, say, freeze damage, it'll be a bit better against shields. Is it freeze and electricity? Or is it electricity and fire? I don't remember, but basically one of these combinations creates magnetic damage, which first of all is really good against shields by itself, and second of all, procs to actually temporarily reduce the maximum shield of an enemy. And there are other types of damage like, let's see, toxic and fire is like a corrosive type, there's radiation type, and basically what all this means is everything has its own uses. And this makes weapons that previously weren't all that great much more viable now, because you can combine various mods to give them a more specific use. So if I eventually am able to put magnetic damage on this Orthos, it's going to be pretty good against everything. It's not going to be as good as some things, but it's not going to be as bad as it used to be, in my opinion. It's still pretty awesome, but in my opinion you need an attack speed mod to get the most of it. But anyway, another addition is the Melee 2.0 system, which has just been added in Update 13, which has changed Melee around, and I'm going to show you how. Basically, you just mashed E before to attack. Nothing wrong with that, but what this means is there wasn't a melee system in the game, you know? There was basically just, you hit the melee key. Now there's actually a melee system. There are combos that you can execute. However, I cannot show you those right now, and I'll tell you why later. But let's just get into the game for now. Pedal faster. Okay. Here we go. Now, as you can see, the UI of the game has changed a lot. If you, of course, look in the upper right, the whole shield and health bars are completely different. And also, I wanted to show you this because it's one of the newer tile sets that have been added. It's quite beautiful. It's a very earthy, not very space-like, you know, tile set. It's not super futuristic, actually. It's much more of what I would call a traditional Earth-like environment or alien planet-like environment. And this is to the credit of DE, I might add. They have added so many tile sets to this game. There are now, gosh, I remember in about Update 4, basically all it ever was spaceship. Spaceship, spaceship, spaceship. And while those spaceships are cool looking, not so much when you've gone through 10,000 missions on the exact same spaceship. Now there are so many different varieties of tile sets. There are deserts, there are these kind of underwater-y looking ones, different sorts of spaceships, the Orokin Void missions, these alien planet-like missions. There are all kinds of them now. And this is awesome, you know, because that was one of the biggest problems, in my opinion, with Warframe early on, was its lack of environments. They have solved that quite nicely. They have also solved the enemy variety issues by making so many enemy types in each of the three factions that you're seeing a lot of different things, you know, and of course with that Damage 2.0 system, you get enemies that are different threats. It isn't just they shoot at you. Now what's more important is exactly what type of damage they're shooting at you with. Because of course, as I said before, those proc chances apply to enemies. So, this used to be all you could do with melee, which is fine and dandy and all, but now, if you hold your weapon switch key, you can switch to actually holding your melee weapon. This does a couple of things. This changes the attack combos, as you can see. The combo is different now. Yeah! This also allows you to do this parrying maneuver. You can block to reduce damage and actually parry enemy strikes. And there are various melee mods you can put on your weapons to affect the effectiveness, that's a really clumsy sentence, of this particular use, which is quite nice. And also, if you hold the primary fire button, you do this. You look awesome, and what this does is empowers your weapon with your Warframe energy. So in the bottom right there, of course, you can see how much energy I have, which is maxed out right now. And when I swing and hit while holding this, it's going to expend energy to do more damage with my strikes. Now, luckily, one thing I really like about the system is it only actually spends energy when you hit, so you're not wasting it by flailing around. So this has significantly changed the usages of melee weapons, and has single-handedly, well, I guess combined with the Damage 2.0 system, has made melee so much more viable, and actual melee-centric builds, combined with the fact that they have a ton of different kinds of melee weapons now, just super viable and really, really fun. Tentacle Party! Tentacle Party. So this is a pretty easy mission. We blasted through this one. This one was pretty easy. So that's that. And another thing they've added, which I'll gladly show you as soon as this mission is over, is something called stances. This completely changes things because a stance actually affects your weapon usage. A stance is something that is equipped in a slot similar to the aura slot on Warframes that gives you actual combos to perform, like in a third-person character action game. Here's how this works. If I go into my Orthos, this slot right here is reserved for stances, and all stances have this bar polarity. Now, I don't have any for this weapon, unfortunately, but I can show you one that I do have. This is the Reaping Spiral stance, which is a stance for scythes. As you can see, it is far-flung attacks and multi-hit combos. So equipping a stance in that slot will add to the number of mod points you have available, and will give you combos that you can use with various, presses of E and right-clicking and left-clicking and stuff, and actually give you different combos rather than just mashing E. Usually there are 4 or 5 different attacks that one of these stances will actually give you. And in the escape menu when you're in-game, there's a combo list you can look at when you're equipped with one of these. There are, I think, usually around 2 stances at least for each type of weapon. There's another scythe stance that I don't have. There are several for swords, several for hand-to-hand weapons, and what this means is, combined with the variety in melee weapons, all these suckers, combined with the Damage 2.0 system, combined with various stances, melee is in a league of its own now. It is a hugely useful thing, and people are finding all sorts of builds around it now, which is really cool. So I approve. I approve a lot. Now, what else has changed? Operations. These are various invasions of different places, as you can see. Basically giving the universe a feeling of we're freaking at war, so please help. You can defend against invasions in various places to get lots of credits, good rewards, and push out the invaders. Alerts themselves have changed a bit. There are often much more of them active now that give you better rewards. And now I'm going to show you some of the utility of this frame. The Hydroid, as it's called. The Hydroid is a pretty offensive frame. Lots of damage, actually, but some utility as well. So let's just use this on a mission. Here we go! Hacking some terminals. I don't know if I can do this one by myself, but we'll give it a shot. So this is yet another new tile set, newer tile set. Looks like we're gonna have someone join. That is a spaceship, but not the standard kind of spaceship. It's more of a sort of manufactorum factory sort of thing. It's pretty awesome. So here we go. we're going to wreck everything and make our way through and get these terminals. Now, the Hydroid, what can the Hydroid do? The Hydroid's first ability is this. Sends down a barrage of water at an area. Probably couldn't see it very well because the darn door closed. So let's try this again. As we absolutely murder our way through this place. Try it again. Let's just waste one over here. This is what this looks like. Sending all these waves of water down actually does quite a bit of damage, and upgrading it makes it do more damage as well as send more waves down in a wider area. It's actually very useful and can do a lot of damage. Ability 2 is this, which is a tidal wave. It's sort of like Slash Dash or, what's that called? Tailwind? The Zephyr has? It allows you to dash forward through enemies with a tidal wave behind you. You can do it while in the air as well. And what it will do is knock down enemies. It will do some damage to them, not as damaging as something like Slash Dash, but it knocks everyone down that you hit. Very useful when you're overwhelmed, and for giving yourself some extra time to deal with those particularly difficult enemies, like, say, the newly added Eximus enemies, which are leader types that have auras and various effects like that to make things just a bit harder for you. Pretty awesome. You are going down, sir. Ability number 3 makes you into a freaking puddle, which I would love to show you. It looks something like this. I can't be hit while I'm in this mode, and anyone that walks into this puddle is going to sink down and take gradual damage and eventually die. Upgrading it makes it last longer, and I think it makes the puddle bigger. You can end it at any time by moving around. It's actually very useful for defense missions. Do that if there's a particularly large amount of melee enemies around what you're trying to defend, and you'll sink them all down so they can't attack the defense objective and are taking damage over time. Dang it.
Alarms have been reset.
Someone already got it. And finally, as you saw at the end of the last mission there, that 4th ability is a tentacle party. It's gonna send up a bunch of tentacles that are going to do a very large amount of damage to everything in the area, also kind of grabbing them and flailing them around and knocking them down and stuff like that. So it's going to do a significant amount of damage, as well as actually knocking people in the area down and just keeping them otherwise preoccupied with their various goals. So I'll show you that when we get to a large group of enemies, but right now this guy doesn't want to open the door, which would be kind of nice of him to do. No. Is that the hate that he has? That looks like the hate. I want that scythe quite badly. Alright, anyway, we need to get going this way, guys. Whee! So, what else has changed? Well, the particle effects and stuff in-game look a little bit better, in my opinion. The PhysX particles are also less draining on the system now. The optimization has been increased. The lag compensation has also been increased pretty significantly. It's still a problem if you're with someone that's lagging an awful lot. The game can still get to an unplayably laggy degree, but it's much more tolerant now than it used to be. And although it's still a problem, it's less of a problem than it has been. Which I appreciate them doing, definitely. So let's throw some tentacles down there. I missed. I hit the edge of the thing there. That was an Eximus enemy. A leader. They have special abilities and oftentimes auras and things. They're very similar to, say, something like a rare monster in the Diablo games. We're just going to absolutely carve our way through these guys. Nice, got my Soma up to level 30. Very cool. Prevent myself from taking too much damage really quick and then hack this. This is going to get me killed, isn't it? Oh well. Alright, come on you guys, come on.
We're done here. Get to extraction.
Stop shooting at me. Thank you. Anyway, I think you're seeing what's up with the game. It's been improved across the board, in my opinion. They have made a lot of improvements to the combat variety with enemy types, damage types, and the melee system. And I cannot stress, by the way, how important these new damage types, are, because of all the new proc effects and the fact that every faction has its own set of armors with its own set of resistances to different damage types. Things like this can, of course, be found on the wiki and, after some scans, in your codex. Warframe, ladies and gentlemen, improved across the board. Hugely improved. It just keeps getting better, and while they being the developers, Digital Extremes, may make some decisions that not everyone agrees with, like in my opinion, Platinum is still a bit too expensive. What they are doing is very good, and they're doing a lot. You know, they continue adding new stuff to this game, and Dark Sectors are new additions to the game that allow you to go to these sort of contested areas that clans build these rail systems to get high-level missions and stuff going. So that's another thing that's been added to this update. I guess that's all for now, everyone. That is update 13, and some of the other stuff that's been added previously since I last did any missions, videos. Excuse me. There we go. Warframe, everyone, free to play on Steam, and no, you don't have to spend money to have fun. So this has been another look at Warframe, and I really hope to see you out there. The best space badass simulator on the market right now. I'll see you later.